for us. So Bobbi, what's your concept? I see all kinds of lights around here. I've got feathers flowing around all over the place. So what is your plan for this young lady when she shows up on set?
Well, the idea is that she's a high school senior. She's about to graduate and go out on her own. So it's all about leaving the nest, spreading her wings, flying for new horizons.
Okay.
So that's where it came from originally, is just being able to break out and going from childhood to adulthood, in this transition.
So what's going on over here?
Okay, well, this is pretty cool. Feathers are cool, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the whole idea about spreading your wings and flying and taking off, and so all these feathers are going to be hanging. They're all hung by monofilament, and my fabulous assistant Matt has been so tirelessly and patiently putting them together.
Well, at least tirelessly.
And we're going to have two sides of this so that you can see that there's depth to them. So they're going to be hanging around her.
Interesting.
So we can either just let them hang like this, or with a little bit of wind, they'll blow and fly. Now the flash is going to freeze them, but instead of just hanging, they're going to be a little bit in motion. And we may do a little bit of throw a tungsten light on here and have a little bit of blur going on at the same time. So she's going to be kind of surrounded by this. So the whole thing about the feathers are going to be going around, and then I have feathers for her to hold, and I've got the turkey wing that she can play with.
So you're thinking of maybe dragging the shutter to get a little bit of
I might do
there?
a little drag the shutter on this.
Okay.
Feathers are fun.
So I'll leave you guys to get back to setting up the set.
Okay, great.
And should be fun. Out of her mind. All right, so here we are on set. We spent yesterday, actually, I spent yesterday watching you mostly.
You weren't much help.
I wasn't much help yesterday, which was a nice change of pace. With you and Matt furiously tying up feathers floating around here for the set. So before we get into the whole concept and get our model Gabby on the set, let's take a walk around the set and see what kind of gear we got going on here.
Okay.
So first of all, what do you got in your hand here?
I have the Sekonic 478.
DR.
This is the one with a touch screen. So that this gives me the ability to be able to change the power of each of my different lights. I have 3 lights that I'm using, A, B, and C. So I can change the power in third stop increments, up and down.
Yeah.
I can do it all from the camera or from the meter. I don't have to worry about running back and forth. It really does make it a lot easier.
Really, especially if you got something up high or in the back of the set or something like that.
So
So let's talk about the lights. What do we got going on over here?
Well, the main light, what I've decided to do on this, I want this first light to be pretty broad and nice and bright. This is it's a Last-A-Light Easy Box, and I think it's 20 by 20 or 24 by 24. It's just a soft box. The little portable flash just mounts right inside, and I believe, which one is that? Is that the 900?
This is an SB900.
That's the 900. I'm using 3 different ones right now, the SB 800, 900, and 910. So
And it's sitting on top of,
the Pocket Wizard, the Mini Flex for the Nikons.
this is the Flex TT5 on here,
TT5.
and this is your main light.
This is my main light, so this one's set on A.
Okay. Right behind you here on the floor, what have we got?
Okay. This is just a bare head. This is the B light. It does have the diffuser, or the spreader, I should say. It's not a diffuser. It has the diffuser, I just did it again, the spreader. It has the spreader set down because what I'm trying to do here is illuminate the background. I am going for high key. I do have it set so that I've got a little bit of dark around the top, so there's a little natural vignette, but mostly it's pretty bright. So this is set on B.
Okay, so again, we've got a Nikon flash. Which one is this? This is a 910.
This is a 910.
Again, sitting on a Pocket Wizard Flex TT5.
TT5.
And then lastly over here.
Okay, my C light over here, this is going to be the hair light. It's also going to provide a little bit of backlight illumination for the feathers on this side. What I have here is I have the Rogue grid on here. I love these. These are like so fabulous. You can make 1, 2, or 3 grids on just kind of like one set. This is set just really to hit that little edge. It's just to provide a little bit of detail in her hair and to a little bit of highlights on the feathers.
So we know you guys are really into gear. So we will provide a list on the website,
Yes, we will.
with a list of all the gear so you can go find out where it is. And then lastly, we've got a handful of Kupo C-stands here.
Yes, we do.
That are being used with support arms and some grip gear with some monofilament fishing line to hang all these feathers.
I don't know what the brand is of the monofilament.
We don't know whose fishing line it is, okay. And lastly, actually, Rick, you could actually pan up here. This isn't being used right now, but it might be used later. We've got another flash way up top with a grid on it, again on a Flex TT5, on this boom arm, which is counterweighted with the sandbag. And again, here's the beauty of having the ability to control the flash and turn it on and off from the meter.
From the meter.
Because it's way up there. And it would be really disrupting of a set and really interrupt the flow of the shoot if you had to stop everything you're doing and then get back up there to reset it and then reset the lights. So, all right, so we got the whole set. You're going to be using 3 lights?
Had to find my way through the feathers.
Okay.
Yes. 3 lights.
So why don't we get started? Why don't we bring Gabby out onto the set?
I think that's a
and
great
you can
idea.
start your thing. So, Gabby, come on out. And I'll get out of the way.
Bye.
Take over.
Hi, Gabby.
Hi.
That's the camera right over there. This is Gabby. Gabby is going to be our high school senior today. So we have her, I mean, she's just fabulous. We're just like perfect. This first part, what we're doing is, this is all about the high school senior portrait. So what we're doing is a couple of different variations on this. The idea is that when you get out of high school, you're coming into your own. So basically, you're leaving the nest, you're breaking out of your shell, you are expanding your wings, you're flying. There's all kinds of metaphors that you can go along with this. But the first part of this shot, what we want to do is really go for the joy, the enthusiasm, it's like, I'm done with high school! Yay! It's time to just go out and play and spread your wings and have fun. So the first one, that's why we're doing the high key with lots of light. We have her wearing white. This is just going to be fun, happy, bright. So that's where we're going to start. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. We might get you to sing a little bit too.
Oh, goodness.
Here's my camera. I'm using the Nikon D700. It's a full frame camera. It has been my go-to camera for a long time. What I have on the top here is I have the Mini on the top, which is that's my Pocket Wizard, which is triggering the flexes. And on top of that, I have the AC3. So what the AC3 is doing right now, since I have this on trigger only, that means that is going to trigger the flashes. My controls that are on the top of the AC3, if I turn my power dials, that's not going to do anything because I'm running it all off of the meter. However, I could turn off each light individually. So for example, let's say that I wanted to turn off the background and just have it be a darker gray, then I could just flip the switch right here, take off my B, put it on off. It's gone. I don't have to run over there and go back and forth. That can all be done right through here. Otherwise, I'm going to be controlling all of my power through the meter itself. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is place each light exactly where I want it to be and take a reading individually for each light. So the first thing you do is always your main light. You can't do anything until you know what your main light is going to do. So my main light is the softbox, and she's going to be looking up into the light just a little bit off, so it's kind of coming around. So I have this set right now, so I'm only reading the A channel. So when I have all 3 channels turned on, then you can see each one of the individual readings. So the A channel is 5.6, the B is 7.0, the C is 3.2. So when I want to take an individual reading, then what I do is I turn off the ones that I don't want to read. And now I'm just going to take a reading off of the A channel. So now the B and the C won't fire. So I'm reading each channel individually. And I put this right here, and I take a reading there, and it's giving me 5.6. That's what I've already decided that I want, and I've kind of already done this ahead of time just to make sure. So I'm showing you that's 5.6. That's what my camera is going to be set at. So now that I have that set up, now I'm going to go to my background light. So the background light is on the B channel. So what I do is I turn this off, I turn off the A channel, and I turn on the B channel, and now I have to make sure that I don't step on the background and make all the paper fall down. So I just read back over here, and that is giving me about 7.0. Now, when I'm doing a high key, normally high key on a white background, you put your background light to be 1 stop more light than your main light. So if that's 5.6, my background light should be F8. However, I've got it down 1/3 of a stop because what I want is I want it to have just a little tiny vignette around the edge. When I look at it in Photoshop, if I decide that I want it to go white, it'll be easy. But if I have that little bit of vignette, then I've got a little bit more to play with instead of blowing out all the information. So I've decided to keep it like that. So now I'm going to turn off that one, and I'm going to turn on my hair light. So again, I just turned the A back on. Turn off the B, turn on the C. Now I got to get out of the way over here. That light is coming and just hitting the edge of her hair and lighting up some of the feathers. So I'm going to place this right here. So when I take that reading, that is at about, it's 2.8, it's a little bit more than that. But the reason that I have that lower, normally you do one stop less for your accessory lights, like a hair light. But since that's a grid spot, the grid is really kind of a hard contrasty light. So I just want it to be a little bit more subtle. So I'm taking it down just a little bit. So it's 3.5, right in that range, right around there. So that gives me the good ratio all the way around. So now I'm set to go. Now I'm ready to go. I want to show you what each light individually is going to look like. You put them all together, but sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what's happening when all three are going off. So I like to make sure that each light is placed doing what I want it to do in terms of giving me the definition. So with my AC3 at the top, all I need to do is turn off, I'm going to turn off the B and the C. I can do that right here. Now just the A light is going to fire. So Gabby, that's it, perfect. Just look up over there a little bit. That's great, fabulous. I'm going to do a couple of those. It's just adorable. You're so cute. So now I have my main light. My main light's exactly what I want. I've that beautiful softbox. I've got good definition. So I have highlights and I'm placing some shadows. I'm not making this look flat. Exactly what I want. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to just the B light. I want to make sure that my background is going to be giving me the definition that I want. So now I turn off the A light, turn the B light back on. It's again, just these little switches on the top. It makes it really easy. And this one's not quite so important, so you can be just, you're fine. Okay, so now when I look at this, I'm looking at my background, and I am just looking to make sure that my background is got my brightness. I'm going to my histogram. I'm checking my highlights first. I do want it to be brighter around her here. I want that to be white, which is where I have my highlight warning, so that's all flashing. And then it's a little bit darker around the side. So again, I've got it exactly where I want it to be. That's just right. So now I'm going to go and just look at the hair light. So I turn off the B light, I turn the C light on, and again, same thing. Perfect. Okay. So when I look at that, wow, that's excellent. It gives me just that little bit of edge of light on the hair, and it gives me a little bit of highlights on the feathers. Now, the white background with the feathers, I don't have a lot of definition there, but this little bit of highlight on the edge, it just adds a little bit more. So now I'm good. Each light is doing exactly what I want. It's placed where I want, so now I turn them all back on. So A's on, B's on, C's on, and now we're ready to go. And go back this way a little bit. There you go. That's great. And I'm just checking, double checking everything. I got exactly what I want. So now it's time to really start playing with the shot. I want to show you something about when you're working in the studio or if you're on location. A lot of people are concerned about the level of the ambient light, if that's going to make an effect upon the exposure. But when you're working with strobe, you know, the only control you have is your f-stop over your exposure. That's what you're setting in order to be able to give you the correct exposure, make sure your histogram is okay. Your shutter speed is really your sync speed, your synchronization speed, which means that it's the fastest shutter speed that you can use, that when both curtains on your focal plane shutter are open, when the flash is triggered. The flash is triggered when the first curtain clears the focal plane itself. So I want to double check. I've got a white background. I have the ambient lights on here for the filming, so you have to be able to see me, otherwise I'd be standing in the dark. But I just want to check and make sure that my ambient light level isn't too much. So I'm turning off all of my flashes right now. A, B, and C are off. I'm keeping my same exposure, which is 5.6. My sync speed on this camera is a 250th of a second. So that 250th is going to cut out all this ambient light. So let me just shoot one. And there's a tiny little bit of information that you can see on her white coat, but otherwise it's really negligible. When I look at my histogram, it's kind of all the way over to the left-hand side. So there's really not enough information there to make any kind of impact upon my exposure. So that's the beauty of this, is that You could be shooting in a gymnasium with all the overhead lights on and still use your portable flashes, and you'd be cutting out the ambient light and only working with the power of the flashes themselves. This is Matthew Burdick. Matt, my assistant that I can't do anything without because I don't know what I would do. I would fall apart to pieces if it wasn't for him. He keeps me focused and on track, and then we bicker. Anyway, Matt's here today helping with everything. He tied all the feathers, but right now he's going to hold the color checker passport because I don't do anything ever without this. There's no way to make sure that your color is going to be accurate unless you photograph something that is a known neutral. This is the perfect thing. This goes with me anywhere in the world under any circumstances. Really, truly, I can't live without it. So, Matt, thank you very much. Smile. It doesn't really matter. The flash, you can move. Yeah. You can sing if you want.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Just keep playing. You can move. You're fine.
Can I move my arms?
Yes, absolutely. You can move them up and down. That's great. Fabulous, yeah. Just think again, it's just like you're taking off, you know? That's great.
Sure it's up here.
Yeah, you can do both ways. That's great.
Okay. Can I like cross them over?
Sure. Oh, that's adorable. Yep. Oh, I love it. That's so cute. Okay, yes, I still kind of. Yeah, that's great.
3.
Yeah, nice.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
So, Bobbi,
That was really cool.
yeah, you really accomplished what you were after.
Yes.
Have you shown Gabby any of
Yes.
these images here? So,
I love the ones with your hair blowing. I mean, this is just, it's just the whole idea about the joy and the enthusiasm and the fun. It's just like, this is just, I think it's great. I'm very happy with what we did.
Bobby's excited. That's good. You should be excited. You should be having fun when
Oh,
you
my
see
gosh,
the
so much
images.
fun.
That is great. And that's all part of the experience. And we all know that when we have a client that we show them images that get them excited, then they become more cooperative when we're doing the shoot, and it's conveyed in your face.
Get that concept, really work that concept. Matt and I sit around and we write down ideas. We bounce off each other, we do some brainstorming, we come up with stuff, we say what's cool, and then how can you develop it? So really let that develop and work on it. Then get your technical stuff down. I mean, you saw all the testing that we did to make everything the way that you want it.
Right.
Once all that's ready, then it's all about the communication. It's the communication between the photographer and the subject, and giving the positive feedback and giving the guidance and letting it grow and develop, because that's where it's really going to come from. That's where the best images are going to come from. Not just, okay, I did 10 shots and I'm done, but you know, what else can we do? What else can we try? So even though in the first I really like the images we did in the beginning, but bringing that card out at the end and getting the hair flying, that really brought the concept completely to fruition. That was what I wanted, and the evidence of this is just really cool. I'm
So
very
get the
happy.
technical stuff out of the way first.
Absolutely.
Don't have your subject on the set and get bored as you're trying to get your lights set up correctly. Get that out of the way. When your client's on the set, be ready to go. Everything's in place. It's perfectly ready to go, and you don't have to worry about technical stuff. Now you get to
Right.
work on the story.
So this was great. You were fabulous. It's really, really fun.
Very cool stuff. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the results. So enjoy. All right, Bobbi, that was a great shoot earlier.
It was fun.
Now you've got a completely different idea.
Yes.
Where I think the terms we used earlier was kind of external happy, and this one's going to be more internal introspective.
Correct.
So what's your concept? What was your thought process for this?
Well, the idea behind this, the first one actually was the external.
Right.
That was the bright, the happy, the out there, the face that you present to the world. But when somebody's graduating high school and they're going to college or they're going off into their life, there's a whole lot of internal process that's going to go on through that. And there's a lot of soul searching, and there's time just spent thinking about who you are and who you want to be, and you're basically being reborn. You're hatching. This is a personal. This is coming from your soul. This isn't what you're showing the world. This is what you personally are going through in this process of coming out. So I've kind of created a little bit of a dreamlike sequence in this one.
Okay.
Holding the nest with the egg in it. So the egg is representing your inner soul, and it's about to go. And then with the feathers hanging around. So it's almost like a dream.
So what's interesting in this particular concept is we're still on our white set. And,
yes.
But your thought process is to make this practically a black background.
Yes.
And again, shutter speed and ambient light. So maybe we can do some shots also showing
Yes.
ambient light in this set, and you'll see really, even though it's a white background, the flashes are providing the light.
The crucial thing about this is that in order for a background to be light, it has to have light on it. So if I have a white background and it has no light, then it's black.
Black background.
It's a
Now,
black background.
We do have studio lights on right now so that we can film.
Right.
We will turn these down, obviously, because they're adding a lot of ambient light. But there'll still be a fair amount of light in the studio, just compared to the strobes, it's minuscule.
We still have the fast shutter speed of the 250, so that's knocking that out. But the way that we're lighting this is the light is very concentrated. We're much more spotlighting. So there's just a little bit of spillover onto the background, so it's not pure black. You'll see just a little bit of edge on her.
So let's take a look at the gear now. Since you've got this,
Okay.
you mentioned this more focused light.
Yes.
So what have we got going on now with the lights?
Okay, my main light, again, this is an A. My main light is a rogue grid. A grid just basically cuts out all of the light. It makes it a spotlight, just like in the theaters. And you can choose the size of that spotlight, how much coverage you want. So right now I'm choosing the smallest amount of coverage so that it's just on the face. This main light is just on the face, a little bit of spilling over onto the background, but really concentrated right here. It's also a hard light source. So it's not soft edges, so it's more dramatic. That means the highlights are a little brighter, the shadows are a little darker. You have a harder edge shadow, which always makes things feel a little more dramatic and a little more edgy.
So what have you got going on over here?
Okay, this is cool because this is the snoot. Now the snoot, I'm going to show you this because this is really pretty cool. The snoot actually has a little grid on the end of it as well. So the snoot sends out a perfectly round spotlight where the grid still will have a little feathered edge to it. The snoot is perfectly round.
Very focused.
And with the grid on here, and again I have two grids, I have the smallest one on here, this is just for the nest. And I actually put a little bit more in terms of my power, I put a little more light on the nest than I did on the face because it's a little more dreamlike and it's all about the egg hatching.
So we got something else going on back here. What's this here?
Okay, don't trip on my stands or move my feathers.
I won't move your feathers.
Okay, she says that she trips on the background. This is also the rogue grid, and in this case I have the widest spread of grid. So what this is doing here, it's directly behind the subject, and it's doing two things. It's giving us a little bit of hair light, because otherwise her hair would blend into the dark background. But the main thing that it's doing is that it's illuminating the feathers from behind. So the feathers now kind of take on a glow from this light back here. Instead of being lit frontally, they're illuminated.
All right.
It fits in more, again, with the dream, feeling it like it's more of a dream.
So why don't we bring our model back in?
Okay.
Let's get her in place. We'll turn down the studio lights a little bit. And why don't we do that same kind of shot if we can show what each of the lights is contributing to
Absolutely.
the shot.
I think that's a
We'll do
great
the
idea.
ambient and then each light, and then go right into the shoot.
That sounds great.
Let's do it. We got Gabby back on set.
Yes.
We wanted to see what the contribution of each of the lights was, but first, we wanted
But
to
first-
see what the ambient light contribution.
Right.
Now, as a test, I went and I metered the light with the studio lights turned down.
Yes.
And you're at 2/50th of a second, 200 ISO. What's your f-stop?
I am at F8.
At f8, the ambient light hitting the back of the set was 0.5. So
There ain't much there.
there's nothing there. But we'll go ahead and take a shot anyway to see if anything shows up at
Okay.
all.
So again, I'm turning off all of the flashes from the AC3.
So let's take that shot.
You don't even have to hold the nest up. That's just close your eyes. And it's black. There is nothing
Yeah,
there
there's
at all.
actually
There's nothing.
completely nothing.
Nothing at all.
So let's take a look and see what each of the lights is contributing.
Okay.
Whatever order you feel makes sense.
We'll go ABC.
Okay.
So I do want you to pull the nest back up again because I want to be able to see how this is going to go step by step. and give me that little bit of a tilt again on the, there you go.
So A is the main?
A is the main light, and that is the grid.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
this flash right up here.
Yep, and pull it a little closer to you, Gabby. That's it. That's it right there. Okay. So that is the main light, and that is just on the face. There's a tiny little bit spillover onto the nest, but hardly anything. You can see there's a little bit that hits the background, just because of the angle that
Sure.
it's going at, but otherwise the background is really dark.
So I'm curious to see what the snoot does all by itself.
Okay, so I'm going to turn off A, and I'm going to turn on just B, which is the
Okay.
snoot. And perfect, Gabby, you're great. Okay, so for that, now it's just on the nest.
That's cool.
You can see a little bounce from the nest onto her face, but it's really just illuminating the nest. That's
And then
it.
lastly are the background light, feather light,
Turn
hair
that
light.
one off, and then turn this one back on. And this is the hair light and the feather light. So now you can see there's a little bit of light on the top of her head, so there's separation, and then the feathers just have the glow. I'm going to do a whole variety of things.
Maybe some gentle smiles, some oohs, some some goofy smiles to let her get it out of her system. So have at it.
Okay. Now drop your chin again a tiny little bit. Good. Try it again. Pull it a little closer. Okay. I think go down again. Try that going down.
That was a great shoot.
It was really
So
fun.
let's sum up.
The storytelling process in a portrait, I think, is always the most important thing. It's not that hard to be able to take a good picture. You know, you can put up a big, broad, soft light, and you can get a beautiful picture.
Sure.
And you can make anybody look good, but it doesn't really have any more depth to it. It doesn't really have any character. So being able to tell the story, coming up with the concept, this creative process is so important to be able to elevate your position as a photographer. People will come to you because you're doing something different. There's 80% of the people are doing the same thing. They can take a really nice picture. That person's really good. But then there's the one that does something that's a little unusual, and that's where the word of mouth starts to go out and say, wow, have you seen what Joe can do? Have you seen Joe's pictures? You got to go look at that website because it's amazing. There's all kinds of stuff that I've never seen before that it's really interesting. You know, I think the thing that's important to understand here is that, to me, it still is the marriage. You know, the photography is the marriage between art and craftsmanship. So you need to know the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not, I mean, I can be a techie just as much as anybody else can be. I mean, we all like our gadgets and all that stuff, but that's the means to the end, because the truth is that you have to have that idea. So work on the idea first, but know your tools. If you don't know how to use your tools.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. I know the story is important to you, but you can't have your tools getting in the way. You got to know your gear.
Good point. You got to know your gear. But again, look at what we did here. We had what are the most common things that we use? We use a softbox. We use grid spots. We didn't use an umbrella today. We used a bare head. We used a snoot, which is just another kind of a grid. My friend David Michael Kennedy, I have to contribute it to him because I'm stealing it from him.
Okay.
He says you do a dance. You're doing a dance with your subject. And if you stop the dance, then the music stops. So if you're trying to keep the symphony going, if you're trying to keep the melody going, then you need to be able to have that. You need to be able to have that give and take, that interplay, that you're guiding. You know, I'm leading in the dance, and then the person's following. But if you're making it enjoyable for them, and you're giving them the positive feedback, and they're your partner again in the concept, then they're thoroughly enjoying the dance and where you're going with that.
That's a really important concept. A lot of people forget that, but it's a collaborative effort, and it's communications between you and your subject. They're not just there being looked at; they're part of the process.
Right. They're not an inanimate object.
Yeah.
You know, you do have to have that interplay with them, because Otherwise, you lose them. And you know, there's another thing that's important about this in that interplay is that when somebody comes to you to have a portrait done, how they're treated and how they feel during the session is going to really determine whether they like the image or not.
For sure.
If they don't feel like they were treated well or honored or respected or made to feel that they're important and that they don't look stupid.
That's going to show on their face anyway.
Right, right. But they know when they walk out the door.
True.
Whether they think it's
And what
going to
does
be
that
good or not.
translate into?
Ka-ching.
Yeah. If they didn't have a good experience on the set with you,
Right.
they're not going to buy it.
I want to say one more thing about this conceptual part, especially with what we did today, is that remembering that you can't make one photograph of somebody that tells you everything there is to know about that person. You can only tell pieces. So, especially I think on senior portraits, when you have the ability to be able to do like a poster or a montage, that you can show several different aspects and be able to combine them together. Because you can't do it all in one picture.
True.
You know, you want to show those different kinds of sides. So to me, I think that's always important. I call those the portrait stories. I mentioned that before. I like doing portrait stories because it gives you a chance to get a little bit more depth and pull out more of that, the inner person, you know, and really capturing that spirit and that character.
Bobbi, as I said before, I learned a lot watching you. It was always a lot of fun. I know that Gabby had a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and I'm sure everybody out there learned something from watching you
Hope
in
so.
action because it really was a great experience, and the results certainly show it.
Great.
So always great spending time with you.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming down again.
pleasure.
Drove down in the freezing weather from Boston to join us. Thanks, everybody. I hope you learned a lot.
Thanks.
I know I did, and had a great time doing it, and you got to see the results from the shoot, everything happening live, and
Yes.
the results speak for themselves. So elevate your art. Bring that storytelling concept into what you're doing with your portraits. Make sure your equipment's out of the way first. You got to learn that
Absolutely.
gear so that it's not stopping you from getting the image you want. Then you can concentrate on telling a story and really creating a great storytelling portrait that says something important about your client. And that will translate into sales.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.